They shackled me right there in my own driveway while half the neighborhood peeked through their curtains, too scared to even breathe. Two officers with spotless badges dragged me toward a squad car, shouting about unpaid HOA fines and property damage. The air smelled like burnt barbecue sauce mixed with the sting of humiliation. My daughter, Sage, 16 and frozen on the porch, could barely process what she was seeing. Her father, the town's police chief, being cuffed like a criminal. The metal bit into my wrists as they slammed me against what looked like a real police cruiser. But here's where it gets crazy. Those weren't real cops. They were hired actors. And the woman who sent them? My power-obsessed HOA president, Cordelia Pimpton Hayes. She'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. I didn't blow my cover. I let her think I was helpless. Because sometimes the best revenge is letting evil expose itself. But to understand how it came to this, you need to hear how it all began. 6 months earlier, I was still Chief Garrett Blackwood, a broken man looking for peace. After losing my wife Marina to cancer, I used her life insurance to buy a home in Willowbrook Estates, the place she had circled in magazines when she dreamed of our future. 23 years of marriage gone, and this house was all I had left of her. My weekends belonged to Sage, who'd helped me restore Marina's beloved 1967 Mustang. The smell of motor oil and vanilla perfume was the only thing that kept me sane. For a moment, it felt like healing. Then, on day 3 of my new life, I found out I'd actually moved into hell. 3 HOA violation notices appeared overnight. My grass was 0.2 inches too tall. My mailbox was painted the wrong shade of black, and my garbage cans had been visible for 4 minutes past pickup time. 4 minutes! I timed it with my police-issued stopwatch. That's when I met her, Cordelia Pimpton Hayes, self-appointed queen of suburban misery. Imagine a woman who could turn a baby shower into a tax audit. Silver hair wound into a bun so tight it looked like it hurt, and eyes sharp enough to cut glass. She drove around in a white Mercedes with a vanity plate that screamed authority. Her mansion across the street glowed with floodlights, as if she expected intruders, or maybe worshippers. The first battle began during my first HOA meeting. I politely questioned a $500 fine for unauthorized commercial activity, all because I changed my truck's oil in my own driveway. Cordelia's icy smile could have frozen a volcano. "Mr. Blackwood," she said, "this isn't that kind of neighborhood." Everyone avoided my eyes like school kids in trouble. Afterward, sweet Mrs. Chen quietly warned me. Cordelia had already forced 2 families into foreclosure using fake violations. She wasn't running a neighborhood. She was running an extortion ring. That night, I promised myself I wouldn't let her destroy what little peace I had left. But Cordelia had other plans. And soon, I'd learned that my HOA president wasn't just power-hungry. She was dangerous. By the second week, living under Cordelia's rule felt like being trapped in a bureaucratic nightmare, wrapped in fake smiles and manicured lawns. Every sunrise brought another violation. Notice tucked under my door like a ransom letter. Vehicle parked 6 inches, off-center, fine, $200. Porch, bulb exceeds 40 watt, limit, fine, $300. Garden, hose coiled clockwise instead of counterclockwise. Fine, $500. You can't make this stuff up. I dealt with armed robbers and violent offenders for a living. Yet every time I came home, it felt like I was under siege from a suburban dictator with a clipboard. The irony was cruel. After 12-hour shifts protecting real victims, I'd come back to find tickets taped to my truck. The same truck I used to rescue stranded drivers during storms. But Cordelia decided it looked too commercial for her perfect neighborhood. The final straw came one Tuesday morning. I was sipping coffee, watching Mrs. Chen tend her late husband's roses, when I noticed strange movement down the street. Golf carts, but not ordinary ones. These had amber flashing lights, decals, and uniformed riders snapping photos of houses like paparazzi on assignment. My instincts kicked in. This wasn't random enforcement. It was organized surveillance. I grabbed my binoculars and watched as Cordelia's self-appointed security patrol inspected mailboxes, driveways, and lawns, writing citations as if they were issuing warrants. These weren't volunteers, they were hired muscle. Cordelia had built her own unlicensed police force. That night, I dug through state records to find every HOA law on the books. The deeper I searched, the angrier I got. Each notice Cordelia issued included a mysterious $75 processing fee. Legally, administrative costs were capped at a few dollars. She was overcharging residents by hundreds, and with 200 homes in the neighborhood, that meant she was pocketing tens of thousands. It wasn't rule enforcement. It was theft wearing a suit. That weekend, Sage came over for our Mustang rebuild. She caught the tension in my face as we worked on the carburetor. "Dad," she said, her voice soft but steady, "why don't you just arrest her?" I smiled grimly. "Because I can't use my badge for personal grudges." But her words stuck. What if this wasn't personal? What if Cordelia was committing actual crimes? That changed everything. By Monday morning, I was done playing defense. I filed formal complaints with the state attorney general's office and city regulators, attaching evidence of illegal fees and unlicensed enforcement. Within days, the first cracks appeared in Cordelia's empire. Mrs. Chen caught me by the mailbox that Tuesday evening. "Chief," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder, "they fined me $2,000 for my husband's memorial garden. 40 years we've lived here. They said his roses violate landscaping guidelines." Her hands trembled as she held out the notice, written in Cordelia's sharp, looping signature. That was the moment I knew it wasn't just about me anymore. Cordelia was targeting the weak, the elderly, the grieving, anyone she thought wouldn't fight back. From that day forward, my investigation turned personal. Cordelia wasn't managing a community. She was running a criminal operation, and she had no idea that the man she was trying to break was a police chief with nothing left to lose. By the start of the third week, Cordelia's utopia had morphed into a full-blown surveillance state. The quiet hum of lawnmowers was replaced by the eerie whir of golf carts prowling at dawn. Her enforcers patrolled like secret police, snapping photos of flower pots, license plates, even kids' toys left on driveways. It wasn't about keeping the neighborhood beautiful anymore. It was psychological warfare. I started noticing patterns. Same routes, same timing, same houses targeted over and over. Cordelia's private patrol wasn't just documenting rule violations. It was gathering intelligence. That realization lit up every detective instinct I had. So I turned my own house into a counter-surveillance hub. Cameras went up behind vents, motion sensors along the fence line, microphones embedded near my garage door. If she wanted to play spy games, she was about to lose spectacularly. One night, I studied the photos she'd sent me with her latest finds, evidence of supposed violations. But under the reflection of one kitchen window, I saw something she hadn't noticed, the faint silhouette of a camera lens. She was photographing people inside their homes. That crossed every legal and moral line in existence. I called Detective Riley Thornton, an old friend from the force with 20 years of surveillance experience. He reviewed my footage and didn't mince words. "Chief, this isn't neighborhood management. It's criminal stalking. She's violating privacy laws and possibly committing federal offenses." Together, we started building a case, quietly. Riley helped me wire up my property with professional-grade equipment, the kind used in organized crime stings. Within 2 days, we had crystal-clear footage of Cordelia's patrols trespassing into private driveways and peering through garage windows. Each clip was another nail in her legal coffin. Meanwhile, her harassment escalated. Every morning, another notice. Every week, another bogus fine. Then came the special assessment letter, a 1,500 charge per household for emergency community improvements. No details, no contractors, no records. Just pay or face foreclosure. It was extortion written in legalese, but her next move hit me where it hurt most. I came home late one Thursday to find a notice glued to my garage door. "Cease and desist all mechanical activity." She was shutting down my Mustang restoration. With Sage, our only real connection to Marina's memory. The garage that smelled of motor oil and vanilla, the one place where grief felt bearable, was now labeled an unauthorized commercial workshop. Standing there, I realized something inside me had shifted. I wasn't a grieving widower anymore. I was a man at war. I began pulling every record I could find on Cordelia's HOA, bank statements, bylaws, annual reports, all of it. What I uncovered made my blood boil. Half the fines issued in the past year were based on rules that didn't exist. And the fees, most of them led back to one account, hers. Mrs. Chen, who'd once whispered warnings, became my silent ally. She handed me a folder one night, filled with notes she'd been keeping for months. Dozens of residents, especially widows and veterans, had been forced to pay inflated fees under threat of foreclosure. "She's been bleeding people dry," Mrs. Chen said, eyes sharp behind her glasses. But she picked the wrong man to threaten this time. That night, under the harsh glow of my garage light, I looked at the Mustang's half-finished frame and felt something I hadn't in a long time. Purpose. Cordelia Pimpton Hayes had turned her HOA into a criminal empire, and I was going to dismantle it piece by piece. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with evidence, patience, and the law. Within days, my quiet investigation began turning into something far bigger than I'd planned. Word spread through the neighborhood, quietly, carefully, that someone was finally standing up to Cordelia. It started with Mrs. Chen, then veteran Hank Morrison, then a young couple, Jasper and Dakota, whose 3-year-old's sidewalk chalk Art had somehow cost them an $800 fine for. Defacing public property. One by one, people who'd suffered in silence started coming forward. They were scared, but they were done being victims. With Detective Riley's help, I started organizing evidence like we were building a federal case. Because at this point, that's exactly what it was. We cataloged every illegal fine, every photo, every fake signature. Riley set up motion-triggered cameras on corners where Cordelia's golf carts passed most often. Within 48 hours, we had undeniable proof of her enforcers. Trespassing onto private property and photographing through windows. I sent copies of the footage to the state's HOA Compliance Division and the District Attorney's Office. The responses were immediate and confidential. "Keep collecting," they told me. "We're watching." Meanwhile, Cordelia's paranoia was reaching new heights. Her white Mercedes started, appearing at my driveway's edge at random times, headlights off, engine idling, as if she was daring me to react. The woman had turned obsession into a lifestyle. The peaceful hum of our neighborhood had been replaced by the sound of surveillance. Golf carts at dawn, camera shutters clicking like gunfire, papers slipping under doors like poison notes. But what she didn't know was that every click, every visit, every inspection was being recorded by real law enforcement. The following week, she dropped her financial bombshell, a $1,500 special assessment per household. No explanation, no documentation. Just 30 days to pay or face foreclosure. It was her way of tightening the noose around everyone's necks. But she didn't realize she'd walked straight into her own trap. My contacts at the district attorney's office confirmed that any false financial assessment intended for personal gain fell under theft by deception as a felony. Cordelia wasn't just bending the rules anymore. She was breaking federal law. And then came the day she tried to destroy the last piece of my soul. When I came home one Thursday afternoon, I found a notice glued to my garage door with industrial adhesive. My Mustang restoration project with Sage had been deemed a zoning violation. The penalty? $5,000. It was her cruelest move yet. That garage wasn't just a workspace. It was where Sage and I rebuilt more than a car. It was where we rebuilt hope. And now she wanted to strip that away too. That's when the fight turned personal. I wasn't just collecting evidence anymore. I was on a mission. I reviewed every image Cordelia's patrols had sent with their violation notices. That's when I saw it. A faint reflection of my own kitchen window, showing a camera lens pointed directly inside. She was spying on me, and likely everyone else. That was the smoking gun I needed. Riley confirmed it within hours. "Chief, this isn't civil anymore," he said, voice grim. "You're dealing with criminal surveillance, harassment, and fraud. We can bring in the feds." And just like that, our quiet resistance became a full-scale operation. We set up covert microphones, infrared cameras, and tracking devices to record every illegal move she made. Within a week, we had footage that could bury her. Cordelia's enforcers trespassing, photographing through windows, falsifying citations, and her own voice on recording, ordering them to tighten control over residents. That night, as I stared at Marina's old wedding photo hanging above my workbench, I made a silent promise. Cordelia Pimpton Hayes had stolen peace from too many families, but she was about to learn what happens when she picks a fight with someone. Who knows the law better than she does? The turning point came the next morning, when Mrs. Chen knocked on my door holding a worn leather binder. Inside were months of her own records, receipts, letters, minutes from board meetings, and a detailed log of Cordelia's crimes. "Chief," she said in her calm, teacher-like tone, "I used to be a federal prosecutor before I retired. What you're dealing with isn't neighborhood management. It's racketeering." Those words hit me like a thunderclap. For the first time, I realized I wasn't fighting one crooked HOA president. I was facing an organized criminal enterprise hiding behind a picket fence. That afternoon, Mrs. Chen sat in my kitchen with Riley and me, flipping through evidence with the precision of someone who'd built federal cases before. Her steady hands turned, pages of bank statements that showed money siphoned through Shell, companies with Cordelia's name buried. In fine print, She's been running this scam across multiple communities, Mrs. Chen said. This neighborhood is just one of her cash cows. Riley leaned back, whistling low. Then she's not just breaking state law, he muttered. She's crossing state lines. That makes it federal. By the end of that day, my home had transformed into a war room. Evidence boards covered every wall of the garage. Photos, timelines, financial charts, and maps connecting all the pieces of Cordelia's empire. The same space where Sage and I rebuilt Marina's Mustang now looked like the set of a crime documentary. The smell of oil and coffee mixed with the electric tension of justice closing in. The small resistance we'd built began to grow. Hank Morrison, the decorated veteran Cordelia had fined for hanging an American flag, organized the other residents. We're done hiding, he said during our secret neighborhood meeting, held under dim lights in Mrs. Chen's living room. This is our home. She can't bully us anymore. His words lit a fire in everyone present. For the first time in months, I saw hope in their eyes instead of fear. Meanwhile, Cordelia's paranoia exploded. She started tailing residents, showing up at driveways, and inspecting lawns with a tape measure like a lunatic surveyor. She even hired private investigators to dig up dirt on anyone who opposed her. But all she found were people who'd lost patience with her tyranny. She didn't know that the deeper she dug, the closer she got to her own downfall. Our evidence pile grew daily. Riley's surveillance captured her enforcers entering private property without permission. We documented falsified fines, forged signatures, and fraudulent invoices. Mrs. Chen found the missing puzzle piece. Cordelia had never legally filed her HOA board elections. Every bit of her authority was fake. Every fine, every foreclosure, every rule. All of it built on lies. That revelation changed everything. It meant her entire reign had no legal standing. Every home she'd threatened to seize, every dollar she'd stolen could be reclaimed. I took the evidence to my contacts at the district attorney's office and was told, Chief, if this checks out, she's looking at wire fraud, impersonation, and conspiracy. That's when the federal agents got involved. They instructed us to keep playing along, to let Cordelia think her intimidation was working. We were setting a trap so tight she'd walk right into it. Let her come for you, one agent advised. We'll be ready when she does. That night, I sat alone in the garage staring at the Mustang's unfinished hood. Marina had dreamed of this house as a place of peace, not war. But somehow I knew she'd be proud, because this time, I wasn't just fixing an old car, I was fixing an entire community. Cordelia thought she ruled Willowbrook Estates. What she didn't know was that her empire was already crumbling, and soon the whole world would see it fall. By the fourth week, Cordelia's behavior had crossed from arrogance into full-blown madness. The more her control slipped, the more reckless she became. Her patrols doubled in frequency. Residents were woken by the sound of engines idling outside at 3 a.m., headlights sweeping across living room curtains. Mailboxes were smashed. Sprinklers were ripped out. It was a campaign of intimidation, meant to break our spirit, but it only fueled our resolve. She didn't know that every crime she ordered was being caught in high definition by hidden cameras, feeding directly to the FBI's white-collar division. Then came the moment we'd all been waiting for. Cordelia filed emergency foreclosure notices against 6 families, including mine. Her falsified legal documents declared us community threats, who endangered public safety. It was an insane move, but exactly the one we needed her to make. As part of the sting, the FBI wanted her to take one last step to commit something so outrageous that no jury could deny her guilt. They didn't have to wait long. Saturday. Morning dawned calm and bright, the kind of day made for barbecues and peace. Sage was flipping burgers beside me when 2 men in police uniforms appeared at the edge of our driveway. The taller one barked, "Chief Garrett Blackwood, you're under arrest for property destruction and harassment." Their badges gleamed, their posture rigid. But I recognized the small inconsistencies, the badge numbers that didn't match any local division, the plastic handcuffs hanging from their belts. Fake cops. Cordelia's grand finale. Neighbors peeked through their blinds as I raised my hands in mock confusion. "You got the wrong guy," I said calmly, giving the prearranged signal, a subtle tug at my ear. Within seconds, the quiet suburban street erupted. Real officers emerged from concealed positions. "Police, don't move!" shouted Detective Riley, stepping out from behind a parked car, weapon drawn, badge shining. At the same time, a black SUV rolled up, and out stepped FBI agent Sarah Martinez. flanked by federal officers. Cordelia's white Mercedes screeched into view like clockwork. She climbed out, expecting to see me dragged away in disgrace. Instead, she froze as Agent Martinez turned toward her. "Cordelia Pimpton Hayes," the agent said, voice sharp as steel. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, impersonation of law enforcement, and conspiracy to commit organized financial crimes." The neighborhood went dead silent, then erupted in cheers. Phones came out. Mrs. Chen live-streamed the whole scene, her voice trembling with joy. Cordelia's face crumbled as real cuffs snapped onto her wrists. "This is impossible!" she shrieked. "I run this community!" Mrs. Chen's voice carried across the crowd. "Not anymore. You never had legal authority here. Every order you gave was fake. It was the final blow." Federal agents fanned out across Cordelia's properties, executing simultaneous warrants. Evidence of stolen funds, fake IDs, and forged documents filled boxes. Her entire criminal empire was dismantled in a single afternoon. That evening, Sage wrapped her arms around me, eyes bright with pride. "Mom would have been proud, Dad," she said softly. And I knew she was right. For months, grief had defined me, but justice had given me purpose again. Cordelia had built her kingdom on fear, and we tore it down with truth. 8 months later, she was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, ordered to repay hundreds of thousands to her victims, and permanently banned from any HOA involvement. Willowbrook Estates was reborn. New board, new bylaws, and genuine community spirit. The laughter of children replaced the whir of patrol carts. Mrs. Chen became the new HOA president, ensuring fairness ruled where corruption once thrived. Sage and I finished restoring the Mustang that winter. As the engine roared to life for the first time, the garage filled with that sweet mix of oil, metal, and memory. Marina's dream had been resurrected, stronger than before. Because this time, it wasn't just our family's sanctuary. It was a symbol of everything we'd fought for: justice, hope, and the reminder that evil only wins when good people stay silent. So, to anyone listening, if your HOA nightmare ever feels impossible to fight, remember this: one voice, backed by truth, can take down an empire.